Let me straight jump into the question answer with the panelists. And one of the things that is clearly standing out is the real estate regulator. It's a need of the hour. And today is extremely important day. Today is the last working day where the sector is not regulated. When it's like in our building, when the market opens for real estate, it will be a regulated sector. So Gitambar, is this the watershed event this industry was looking for?
Yes, of course, but Sharad, it can't happen. Nothing changes overnight, let me tell you. The regulator's supposed to kick in on the 1st, and unfortunately, many states are not prepared with their websites, so you can't even apply. So I was just talking to a journalist before coming here. If somebody wants to now apply for a new launch, many states or many cities don't have a website where you can apply. So what is going to happen is that you cannot start selling before you have the registration number. So therefore, there's going to be this lag where, you won't see many launches happening till the people on the other side, who are the operators of the regulator, they become aware of how this whole thing is to be done. It's a process.
Yeah.
I'm telling everybody to be realistic. It's not a magic wand. Things will not change overnight. Having said that, let me tell you that developers as a fraternity have understood that if they are to survive, regulator or no regulator, they have to be answerable, they have to be compliant. Otherwise, they should shut shop and just, behave like landowners, like you said. That's what is happening. So things are getting better nonetheless. Regulator is a very good change, but anyway, things are getting better.
So Anshul, taking from what Gitambar is saying that it's not going to change overnight. It's a big machinery. There are so many stakeholders. There will be teething issues. It'll take maybe 1 or 2 years. What is your take on this bill and how it's going to play out?
I think it's an issue of sentiment, isn't it? The stock market behaves on sentiment, right? A Delhi election is won and suddenly the market goes up. And I think that's going to play out in a big way. So it also depends on how fast can the state machinery be ready. And I can bet you that as soon as the first licenses of RERA is given out, the developers will make it as a marketing tool and will hit the market very hard to say RERA compliant project and let's go, right? And as we saw from Anuj's stats, the launches have been low. I think the sentiment will change drastically because there are a lot of end user investor or end users, I should say, who are there's a big trust deficit. Again, it came up at the presentation earlier today, and that's going to change significantly. So in my mind, the sentiment will change. Absolutely agree with Gitambar where things do take time to get implemented, etc. But I think it's good news for the residential sector, and it will see the support of end users buying coming back.
Sure. Gautam, just to put some more light for our audience and the investors here, what exactly is there in RERA which is going to be a game changer as what people are expecting it to be? Some final details on the kind of penalties and the regulations talk about.
Sure. So I think the big word is transparency, right? I think if you look 10, 15 years back, probably real estate and entertainment were the not so good boys when it came to level of transparency. And this one act by itself is set to put this whole industry into an entirely new paradigm. So there was reference to real estate brokers being regulated, which is not a very well publicized fact. There is, under the law, interest payable by developers to allottees, and of course vice versa, where what is contracted and what is signed upon is not done. So if there is a delay in handing over a project, then as an allottee, the allottee has the option of either opting out or, if there are delays, getting interest paid out to him. Not surprisingly, the rate of interest payable by the developer to the allottee is not going to be different from the rate of interest payable by the allottee to the developer. So there's a level of parity on that. One very interesting fact, again riding on the wave of Digital India, is the requirement to go online. It may not happen immediately, but the governments have been given time to set up websites And a lot of this information about which projects are there, what is the sales, a lot of that is going to be captured online, and a lot of that is going to be made available online for the public at large. So we're not anymore going to be in the dark as to what's happening. If somebody does come out with an advertisement, you can go online and check what's the data on that particular project available. And that, to my mind, is really, it's a small thing, but the kind of empowerment that it gives to investors and allottees, it's an entirely new role.
Welcome, Abhishek. We just started a discussion, and the big talking point in our industry is that the regulator, today is the last working day where the industry is unregulated. 1st of May onwards the regulator will be in the place. Is this the big game changer, and how do you view regulator coming into place for this industry?
I think in apt analogy is when SEBI came into the stock market about 2 decades ago, or a little over 2 decades ago, and you all know this better than I do. The way of doing business completely changed. It's not that nobody could adapt. A lot of people adapted, and those who could adapt became institutional, and they grew in size, and a lot could not adapt and slowly became much smaller players or disappeared from the stock markets. And I think RERA in that sense, brings a uniform playbook for everybody. I think it will really help reduce the credibility gap in that people have as a perception in the industry, and therefore in the long term reduces the risk adjusted return that the industry should produce for anybody who's investing in it. So I think in the short term, maybe 6 months, there will be some moderate amount of disruption. I think the rules, for example, for Maharashtra came out late last week, and supposedly the act is going to be implemented on Monday. Now clearly that is not a time frame where all of the changes that are required to be done will be done. So there will be a transition period, though the act doesn't necessarily provide for one. But after that, I think you're going to see that the overall trend in the industry of more mature players, more corporate or institutional in nature, more focused on doing what they can do well rather than trying to do everything, and will sort of play itself out, and RERA will be a key catalyst in that.
Just to take this forward, it's like RERA has come into place. It's stringent, not in terms of only monetary fines, punitive as well. There are a lot of tough punishments which have been put out in that. There are a lot of open positions. So one thing that we are saying, it will lead to consolidation. A larger, well-managed developer will get more bigger in this play. How the position will get unwind? Specifically, if I look at up north, there are large part of inventory which is currently delayed or have severe challenges.
So actually, Sharad, see, where there's already construction which has happened and projects are delayed, there will be no consolidation. How can there be consolidation in an incomplete project? I'm saying this time and again. I ask you, as an investor, RERA or no RERA, I mean, tomorrow, or let's say from Monday, we become RERA, the regulator is in. Will you invest as a fund in any and every developer who's on the website? No. Therefore, what is going to remain is performance. You will invest in a company which has performed. So will the retail investors invest in a company which has performed. The regulator will not be used as a marketing gimmick. It cannot be used because the investor has become very sensible and wise. He knows, doesn't matter, he may be registered with the regulator, but has he performed? Has he had bad deliveries? How will positions unwind? Wherever construction has happened and there is still scope of exploiting more FSI, over there, and this has already started happening in the north, good developers are being invited to exploit that unused FSI, provided there's enough meat in it for this stalled project to be completed. I will not quote names. There are very big names in the north which have defaulted on delivery. If there is no meat, there is no unwinding. If there is meat or juice in the deal, there is a possibility of unwinding. So RERA, I keep saying this, RERA is not magic. We have been, as an industry body, CREDAI, we have encouraged self-regulation. We have encouraged transparency. We have stood by our developers who have, been transparent and have fallen on bad times because of the market going up or down or because of inaccessibility to financing. Things will remain the same. You'll have compliant players who were there before, who are still there now, who you will invest in even now.
Yeah.
And there will be players who are not compliant but who are now registered with the regulator, but you still will think 10 times before investing with them.
So moving away from RERA, one of the things that I would like to know from Abhishek and Pitambar, they are large players in their micro markets. Over a period of last 4 months, we are seeing some green shoots of sales in residential market. How are you looking at the residential market in and around Bombay?
We believe that supply-demand equation in MMR has significantly improved over the last 18 months. Before 8th of November, the market was already doing quite well and demand has started picking up. There was a 3-month impact of demonetization. But I think after that, I would say the comeback has been far stronger than what we would have imagined. 3 months, February, March and April, we as a company have, if you take that 3 months as a quarter, this is by far the best ever quarter we've had ever. Means we've done about 2,800 crores of sales in 3 months. So it clearly shows that there is a lot of demand. Some of it may be pent up from the previous 3 months. We'll see how that pans out. But in general, I think real estate is so closely coupled with the economy that if you are seeing good traction in parts of the economy, the stock market is performing well. That has a significant impact on sentiment, especially in South and Central Mumbai. And in general, we think that Mumbai is performing quite well.
And it will also be fair to say, I believe it's absolutely bottom in terms of pricing. The city has a very unique cost structure where you have fungible premiums. There's very limited scope for prices to further go down. So I think that is something which probably Bombay will witness. What's your view on Delhi NCR?
So everywhere, I'm talking about the country at large.
Yeah.
It has been documented that there's a shortage of housing in this country. Yeah. 20 million units in these 7 metros which Anuj was talking about. In other tier 3, tier 4 towns, another 40 million units. When there's a documented shortage, there's an existing demand, there's an opportunity. Why will not the real estate market do well? There was a deficit of confidence and sentiment. Like Abhishek said, it is driven by when the economy is doing well, the sentiment becomes better. Plus, people were waiting for a rationalization of prices and interest rates. Now the market has actually divided into 3 parts. One is your high end. Second is the sweet spot, which is the mid-segment, 6,500 rupees, which Anuj was talking about. And the third is the affordable. With PMAY, with schemes like this coming, being a reality now with this government, you have suddenly started seeing traction across the country. And I'm talking about all metros. Everywhere we speak to people, sales have picked up. In the last quarter, sales have really picked up everywhere. And I kind of didn't agree with Anuj's graph because he says Q3 16 was better than Q4 16. Q3 had the disruption of demonetization and Q4 has been much better than Q3. So the demand is there. It's a real demand. It's a documented demand by the intelligentsia, by the people who are opinion makers. Why will this huge, surge of demand, till when will you stop it? So now, because the price is rationalized, home loan rates have come down, there are interest subsidies and PMAY, suddenly people have started coming to buy.